Welcome to Mountain Strong. Today we are at Fort Abercrombie, which is on Kodiak Island. Kodiak Island is an island that is just before you really get to that Aleutian archipelago, or whatever that term is, but a big island that is south of that kind of tail of Alaska that goes off into the sunset, literally, because it's on the western side there. Anyway, Fort Abercrombie is a decommissioned World War II era fort. It was built up as a defensive place. They were trying to preempt any attacks on the U.S. By the Japanese at that time, and so they built up this place to defend the U.S. from Japanese attacks. Of course, the Japanese did come onto the Aleutian Islands, but further down in that I'm not going to try to say that term again, that's weird, but further west they did attack, but they never made it over here to Kodiak Island. And so after the war ended, pretty soon after, this fort was abandoned, and then it was eventually turned into a state park, and it really is one of the more special places here in Kodiak. Well, anyway, today we're going to be having a look together at Psalm 83. Let's go ahead and read that now. O God, do not keep silence. Do not hold your peace or be still, O God. For behold, your enemies make an uproar. Those who hate you have raised their heads. They lay crafty plans against your people. They consult together against your treasured ones. They say, come, let us wipe them out as a nation. Let the name of Israel be remembered no more. For they conspire with one accord. Against you they make a covenant. The tents of Edom and the Ishmaelites, Moab and the Hagrites, Jebel and Ammon and Amalek, Philistia and the inhabitants of Tyre. Asher also has joined them. They are the strong arm of the children of Lot. Do to them as you did to Midian, as to Sisera and Jabin at the river Kishon, who were destroyed at Endor, who became dung for the ground. Make their nobles like Oreb and Zeb, all their princes like Zebah and Zalmunna, who said, let us take possession for ourselves of the pastures of God. O my God, make them like whirling dust, like chaff before the wind. As fire consumes the forest, as the flame sets the mountains ablaze, so may you pursue them with your tempest and terrify them with your hurricane. Fill their faces with shame, that they may seek your name, O Lord. Let them be put to shame and dismayed forever. Let them perish in disgrace, that they may know that you alone, whose name is the Lord, are the Most High over all the earth. The psalmist and his people find themselves surrounded by enemies, and how appropriate it is to be here to talk about that. Of course, the people here in Kodiak were never surrounded by enemies, but I know that they built this fort with the expectation that it would have to be used. They thought that the enemy was going to press around them, and oftentimes in life we can feel like that. We can feel as though we are surrounded by enemies, or as though the enemies are on the horizon just waiting to attack us. The psalmist is surrounded by enemies, but what does he do? He calls out to God. He says in verse 1, to God, help us. He says in verses 2 and following that those who hate you are against us. He calls God to wipe them out in verses 3 and 4, and then he names them. And if you look at verses 5 through 8, you get this picture of the enemies surrounding Israel on all sides. And so again, that picture of just being surrounded by those who want to destroy you and wipe you off the face of the earth. Well, he pauses at that point. And it's always important whenever we feel that we are pressured, whenever we feel that we are oppressed, we pause. The Psalms teach us to stop and to think about the situation carefully before we move forward and before we depart from God and even coming to Him. He pauses and he says, well, wait a minute. Am I, as a child of God, a person who's surrounded by enemies, or am I, as a child of God, a person who is surrounded by God? And he realizes, I'm surrounded by God. And he realizes further as he reflects upon his beautiful position surrounded by God, he realizes that his people have not been a people who have been accustomed to defeat. Only when they don't come to God are they defeated by their enemies, but when they come to God, they are a people who enjoy victory. And so he comes to God and he connects the victories of the past with the problems of his present and says, God, take care of these people like you took care of the enemies of your people in the past. And what a wonderful use of history to do that. To connect the problems of the present with the victories of the past and realize that as God defeated them then, He can defeat my problems today. He calls upon the remembrances of the past, and then he calls upon God to defeat his enemies. Verses 13 through 18 describe that. And the lessons, therefore, for me is that, again, just like the psalmist, I am not surrounded by enemies truly, even if I feel like I am. I'm surrounded by God. God is He who is on my side. And as long as He is on my side, my story is not a story of defeat. My story is a story of victory. I'm a part of a history that I can call upon and remember, not just so that I can think about these cool guys named Arib and Zeb and how they were defeated. Well, cruel would be the better description of them, but not just so that I can think about those battles of the past, but those battles of the past become relevant for my present when I realize again that God is here to defeat my enemies, just like He was there to defeat theirs. And so call upon God to do what He always has, to fight our battles and to win them for us. God and His people enjoy victory. They always have, and they always will. And may God bless you to realize that truth today.